Good morning. Thanks for joining me. My name's Brian Pollard, aka F1 Pit Pass, and today we're discussing carp rods and reels for beginners. Let's get started. I'm going to assume a few things in this short video. The first assumption is that as beginners we're fishing commercial venues in the UK. These commercial venues don't involve long casts. In fact, casting 80 metres, 80 yards, that's going to be at the extreme end. So our rods and reels and line are all chosen with this in mind. A typical cast, 40 yards or 40 metres, depending on what you want to talk in, what measurements you use, is a typical commercial venue mid-lake cast. Yes, there may be days when you want to cast a bit further if there's nobody on the far bank and you want to drop it in the margin at the far side of the lake, but those days are few and far between. So let's just consider a typical day. So that narrows down the choice of rods. The venue will usually specify that you need carp rods and suitable line. A typical line, 12-pound breaking strain, or maybe even slightly more, governs the test curve of the rod. Why do I say that? Well, the test curve of the rod decides a few things. One, how much fun you can have playing a fish and landing it, what size fish you can land with that particular rod, and how it reacts to a cast. If you were to take a broom handle, it wouldn't react very much at all to a 12-pound breaking strain line. If you were to take a very light beginner's coarse fishing rod, it would bend double at the first sight of a decent carp, and you might never get that fish to the bank. So this is where we have to choose a rod with a test curve suitable for playing, landing a carp, and suitable for casting typical lead weights out into the lake. As you can probably guess, casting a lead weight, my chosen weight's around 2.5 or 2 3/4 ounce pair of leads. When you're casting these weights, you need a rod with a fair bit of construction. Let me show you my chosen rods. You notice the rod is quite a slim blank. It's a two-piece rod. It has screw fittings with just a thumb screw for attaching a reel. It has large eyes towards the butt end and suitable eyes throughout its length, ending up at the tip. There's the lead I was talking about. Two-and-a-half ounce pair lead attached to my simple carp rig. We'll come on to reels later in the video. That's a 2.5 pound test curve rod made by a company called TF Gear. I'm not sponsored, I just love the rods. They're an entry level price. I have 3 of the same rod and one slightly longer should I so wish to travel elsewhere where a long cast is needed. But my everyday rods are 10-foot 2.5 pound test curve TFG rods. I chose them because they're a slim blank. I like the look of them, they work well. I have wore rings out over the years and had them renewed or renewed the complete rod, but they are quite reasonably priced and will last you a few seasons. Why have I got 3 rods? I chose the 2-rod license, and the 3rd rod is always set up with an alternative method of fishing. So if I see a fish show in an area of the lake that I can't reach or fish for with the 2 rods I have in action, then I bring one of those rods in and use my 3rd rod to reach that showing fish. It is a luxury. You don't need a spare rod, but it's caught me some fish, and it's an extravagance because they are a reasonably priced rod. It's an extravagance I've allowed myself over the years. Why a 10-foot rod when the commonest rod on the market are 12 foot? Well, rods and reels should be matched so that they feel right in your hand. You want to be able to use them all day, cast easily. We're talking about muscle memory here, training your casting arm to repeat casts so you can learn to cast accurately. And if we're talking about muscle memory and picking a rod up, I would aim, pardon the pun, to get my eye in within 3 casts at the start of a day. It's very much akin to rifle shooting, where any decent marksman will tell you they have 2 or 3 shots to get their eye in, and then they know where the bullseye is and can hit it more often than not. And it's the same thing with casting. At the start of a day, you may be in a rush, you may be tired, whatever. You have to get your eye in. But once you get your eye in, there's no excuse for not hitting that mark over and over throughout the day. Yes, you can cast it too far occasionally, into a tree, onto an island, into a bush, or cast too short of the mark that you intended. I'm afraid that's fishing. But it's also practice, so the balance between rod and reel is absolutely paramount importance. I personally don't see the point in having a reel stuffed full of excess line I'll never cast out. I cannot see the point of that at all. If I'm aiming at a mark 75 yards or meters out and I can reach it and there's plenty of line left on my reel for should a carp pick up my bait and run, and I've got enough line to let it run, play it and eventually land it, then that's all I need. There's absolutely no point in my mind of having massive big pit reels for small casting venues. When you pick them up, they feel cumbersome. The rods sometimes feel like broom shanks. So never undergun for a carp, never expect it not to do things. Always expect the unexpected. Have enough rod to handle it, have enough reel to handle the carp, but knowing the venue, knowing what's in the venue, having the confidence in your line strength, your clutch setting, your reel setting, your drag, have enough confidence in your setup and you will have lots of fun at quite an inexpensive charge by going for a 10-foot rod and a decent 4000 reel rather than a 12-foot rod and larger reels, 6, 8, 10, wherever they go up to, I wouldn't know. I save that for big fish venues. Let's have a look at my reel. It's a Shimano Baitrunner 4000. I have spare spools with different weight lines on. I change the line most seasons, and I learned to set it up at a very early stage of my fishing. I'll put a link to a video I made which has been quite successful, and lots of people have enjoyed it, help setting up a Baitrunner reel. So this setup of a thin blank 10-foot rod and a 4000 reel with a full spool of chosen line that's going to give you the most bang for your buck, the most value for money, and certainly the most fun. My two personal bests of common carp and mirror carp are both £19, and I've landed grass carp of £18.5, all on these rods and reels. If you were to look at any of my other videos, you'll see that I use floating baits, so these rods and reels are capable of casting light baits out a long way into the lake to target cruising carp. They're also a 2.5 pound test curve. This light blank is also adequate for casting this 2.5 pound, Freudian slip there, 2.5 to 2 3/4 ounce lead. This is a running lead for my zig setup. I've also got rigs, videos and setup videos should you care to look further. So have a look at a 10-foot rod, a 4000 series Baitrunner reel, suitable line for the venue, and have fun carp fishing. Thanks for watching. Join me again soon for more beginners tips.